Okay, so sorry for the delay, everybody. Here we have a Thanksgiving holiday version of our Training Tuesday. A fairly short one again today. There isn't a lot on the agenda, but let's go ahead and walk through it. So we have a new training center. That's the new training center section on our CPO-GS site. We'll walk through that. We're getting some questions. Where is the small purchase with sole source conditions form? We did have it with the small business set-aside waiver, but we moved it to the procurement resources library inside all the contract templates and those sorts of things as well. So I'll show you where that is. And then we'll talk about the state use dropdown is now only at the purchase order only. Also, if you guys weren't on the last week's training, we have a new training email. This is the CPOGS.training@illinois.gov. So that's going to be really helpful for any of your training questions, anything that might be a follow up from our Training Tuesdays. If you're scheduling any of the bid by monthly trainings, which we have one today at 10 o'clock, we also have one in December, two in January. As those move forward, utilize the CPOGS.training website. That way, we have multiple people who have access to that email, and we can get your answers, get answers to your questions, as well as organize all those sorts of logistics of the trainings. Okay, so we have a new training center link on the CPO-GS site. Right below the calendar of events, you'll see there's a little training center thing. And actually, let's go out and take a look at it. So here's our CPO-GS site. If you click right here, you see the big light bulb brain looking logo, the training center. Now this is a work in progress, so eventually we'll be putting out a lot more trainings here within that training center. But for now, this is where I'm going to be uploading all of the Training Tuesday videos as well as all the slides. So when that opens, you'll see, there we go, that we have the link to the Training Tuesdays. That has not changed at all. This is the same little blurb that was on the calendar of events. You have your CPO-GS training email if you have any questions. But more importantly, this is where every Tuesday I'll be uploading the slides as well as the video for the Training Tuesday. So as you can see, you can go back and look at any of the older videos. So if you aren't able to make that week, or if you have perhaps someone, if you just started new, or you have someone new in your office, maybe go back and take a look at these. They're all 15 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes. They're not intended to be very long. The small purchase one is the only one that we actually got into bid buy and walked through the whole small purchase training. So I might highlight that one as a video that it's about an hour or so, but really walks you through that small purchase process. So all of these will be here. And so you can always go back and take a look at the slides as well as view those videos. Where is the small purchase with sole source conditions form? It's on that CPO-GS site that I was just on, and I'll walk you through this too, but it's good to kind of have the slides, the quick little steps. So the CPO-GS site, you go down to the bottom, you click the procurement resources library. Within that, there's a bunch of folders that you can go into, and you'll go to the solicitation and contract template forms, and then you'll have that small purchase with sole source conditions form. So while we have that pulled up, let's just go to it. You see how that right here is our procurement resources library. We'll click on that. And then within that procurement resources library, there are tons of information, CPO memos, CPO notices, etc. There we go. Go down here, we'll go to our solicitation and contract templates and forms. And then that small purchase with sole source conditions form will be inside there. If it ever wants to load. Seems like my computer is already going on Thanksgiving break. Anyway, it's in there. There we go. you scroll down, you'll see that the small purchase with sole source conditions form is there as well. Now I do believe it is still with the, right next to the small business, the small purchase forms, the small business set aside program waiver. But let me just double check that that's there. So you can find it at either places, but it made sense to kind of have them with the small business stuff. However, we did get some feedback that, hey, why don't you have it with all the other templates and forms? So that makes sense as well. Okay. We already talked about the new training email address, the CPO-GS.training. Use that email for all scheduling and registering for any of the future trainings. Speaking of the future trainings, we do have December 4th is currently full. We do have one today that's going to be full as well. We added the 2 dates in January 8th and January 22nd. These are currently taking place at the CDB Computer Lab at the Stratton Building, room 320. And they're really designed for those that are new to BidBuy. So we walk through, the very basics of general navigation. What does the website do? What does all the homepage, all the icons and buttons do? And then we talk about, doing releases off of masters, small purchases, always within, we understand that both of those procurement methods are procurement methods that a lot of different people do, as well as some of those that are newer to procurement as well. Always with an eye on, even as we're walking through the small purchase process, as a reminder, we always do kind of talk about, hey, if you were doing an IFB, you would still have some of the similar processes so that you can understand the BidBuy system. However, some of the different type codes and those sorts of things would just be different. And go ahead and email that CPO-GS.training to register for any one of those dates. I'm hoping to have a couple more February dates confirmed maybe in the next couple weeks. Okay, so do we have any questions about that? Is there a CPO? I do have a question. Is there a CPO notice coming on the small purchase sole source form? Is this form required for small purchases below $10,000? Fantastic question. Short answer is yes, there will be a CPO notice coming about that form. However, the CPO notice will be covering multiple things. So we want to make sure that those CPO notices aren't just going out willy-nilly, and a CPO notice will encapsulate this as well as utilizing all of the job aids as well as they're being updated. But in terms of, I will say, let me take my training hat on and put my SPO hat on. I will say that those are the questions that an SPO is asking anyway. Now, necessarily, it's not necessarily have to be on that form per se, but even going back, 6 months, 2 years ago, those were the same questions that had to justify that sole source condition for a small purchase. Now, as you don't have to do the full sole source process. There's no hearing. It's still just a small purchase. However, you're still justifying that sole source condition. So I will say that a CPO notice will be forthcoming, but really those are the questions that are being asked anyway. And to your second question, is this form required for small purchases below $10,000? It will be, but once again, it is those are the same sorts of questions that are being asked. So as an agency, as an APO, for instance, who's approving those for less than 10, those are the questions that really need to be answered anyway, because you are justifying that as a small purchase with sole source conditions. You're justifying those sole source conditions. So it does need to be documented, and moving forward, it will be required to be as a part of that procurement file. Any questions on that? Because I think that's a really good question, and we've received it, outside of these Training Tuesdays, and that's something I want to make sure that we're crystal clear on. Okay, not getting any questions on that. We have our fun fact of the week. Abraham Lincoln, right? Illinois' favorite son. So November 26th, 1863, President Lincoln proclaimed November 26th as a national Thanksgiving holiday to be celebrated annually on the final Thursday of November. So with that, The fun facts won't always be about Lincoln, but just the last 2 weeks I thought were pretty pertinent for that. So everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and we'll see you next Tuesday. As always, please feel free to email the CPO-GS training with any questions, as well as my personal email for specific questions regarding these trainings. Thanks, everybody. Bye.